Righto, thanks everyone for joining us and welcome to our very first episode. There's no doubt a lot of Australians are doing it tough right now, and cost of living, pressures on families. At the same time, more people are starting to ask the big questions about how things are being run and who's actually being held accountable for them. So to kick it off, I want to sit down with someone who's developed a strong understanding of constitutional issues and accountability through his research and work within the Anti-Corruption Academy. It's great to have Jayden Emanuele with me tonight. Welcome, Jayden.
Welcome. How is everybody?
So I might kick it off, Jayden. Can you tell us, for those people who don't know you, a bit about yourself and where your journey's come from to where you are today?
In pretty much a nutshell, it's pretty quick. It's since 2018. I jumped on a group that's called Kingdom of Australia through other groups, but they were small and whatnot, where everyone's forming groups. And I learned through Kingdom of Australia quite a bit, went through all that. That kind of got moved to another name, still going good so far as I know. And then somehow through another friend who was part of Kingdom of Australia, put me onto the anti-corruption, what wasn't called anti-corruption at the beginning, and then I started to study, and with David Walter's stuff and all that, I tried to beat it, and I couldn't beat it with all the knowledge I had, and also government knowledge that you learn on the government's websites and stuff like that. And then I worked myself up on the ranks on learning, researching, and had quite a few good mentors on the way up, as they say. And yeah, like everyone that's in this fight, it's not that you don't know or you're uneducated or you're stupid or anything like that. It's just that you haven't read enough.
Yeah.
It's when there's a story I've got told today, and it came from a black fella or black man in America, African American, back in the slave days, and he used to swap bread and all that for old ripped up paper, and started to learn the language of Americans. And he realized that slaving the body is nothing compared to slaving the mind, and to slave the mind is to give them no knowledge. Yeah. So it's not that I know more or someone else knows more than you. It's just that they've done more reading than you.
So can I ask you what drew you personally to issues of corruption and keeping the governments accountable?
Yep. So I'm very limited on what I can say in regards to that.
No worries.
That pretty much the government did wrong to the whole entire family of my family, and I looked for vengeance, and vengeance came onto finding out this is bigger than my own vengeance game. Like a lot of people, when they first start, they hate the government. They're very angry at the government for what the government's done. And often a lot of people that are in this fight, their government's done some form of wrong to them, a very grievous wrong in their eyes. So when you start learning and all that, like a few of my people here in the anti-corruption, aggression goes away, and it's not revenge. It's bigger than that, and that's where I come to in that part of the journey. Like everyone's angry at the police and they hate the police and they call the police nice names and whatnot, but really it's not them. It's just like you, that you only got to talk a certain way. So did I. And you have to retrain your own thinking, and again, read, study, ask questions.
Yeah.
Even the difficult questions that's going to make an argument.
Yep.
You don't know unless you ask. The government built you not to ask.
My own experience would be I started out at a very young age not being able to understand just why things were happening the way they did happen. I spent probably the last 4 decades trying to chase some answers, and it wasn't until I come across the Anti-Corruption Academy that things started to make a bit of sense, because up until then I had I just couldn't believe what was happening and how they were able to do these things. But now I'm getting a bit of an understanding of it, because I'll just point out that your role within the Anti-Corruption Academy is the main researcher, and which is the reason why I invited you on tonight.
Yeah.
What would you say is your main focus in regards to corruption with the Australian politics currently?
My role, I just ask the hard questions, and like I expect everyone to ask me the hard question and go, well, how do you know you're correct? How do you know you're telling the truth? Like I used to get asked these questions a lot when I first started, when I started doing this and studied. And I asked people to ask me the questions, debate me,
Yep.
you know. Um, that's why I'm a very good researcher, is because the people, I got to a level where people stopped debating my research, because just like David Walter stuff, you can't beat it. And it gets to a point where it can't be debated. And so, talking on my personal journey is, and with a bit of an advice to the viewers, is debate what you're learning and try and beat your own logic. If you think the government, this part of this document you found is going to win against the government, try and beat that document 3 times over.
The people that aren't aware of who David Walters is, can you give us a brief rundown who you were referring to David Walters?
Or I'll give you a rough. Des H and Des Rowe is a better two men to talk about who David really is, but I'll give you a rough who I've known through. And David is an ex-Australian federal police officer who did a research, made a petition, sent it to the king, and it became public. That's how I found it. Again, through the group that my friend put me through, and they put me on a where to get off the internet. I got it off them. That was the original petition or right that we had to do to the king and queen after learning his David Walters petition, and that's what we that's where I've learnt my studies from him, and he did us a great deal. And I've heard stories that and they're only stories because I've never seen it myself, is that he's gone to again, Des H is a better one to talk to. He's gone to international about it. He's gone to the king and queen. The queen said, you got a constitution and use it. I'm going to show you in a minute you can't use it, but that's soon. That's a soon part. And yeah, he did us a great service, and many other people that I don't know, because of course they're much older than me, and other groups have done a major way to get us to here. Because again, I've got a lot of research. I deleted 4,500 PDFs just 6 months ago that I can't use anymore because the information is no longer needed. And I could just imagine what those fellas have against the government.
Yeah, well, when I said like I spent the last 40 years or so questioning what's been done to us and continues to be done to us, and I'm not Robinson Crusoe. We got people struggling, absolutely struggling to make ends meet, to look after their families, support their children. I know lots of people who are living in cars, living in parks, and really we have to question what's going on. And when you bring it back, the understanding that I'm getting is if we were to be able to follow the Constitution as it was written to protect all of us, we wouldn't be in this bloody mess.
Well, that is 100% correct. In the original Constitution of Queensland and the Commonwealth, the mineral rights to and all that's reserved to the King and Queen. But we also got a tip off of that at the end of the year. For an example, they used to give $250 to pensioners a year, and if you actually go into that type of rabbit hole, you would find it's got to do with the mineral rights, because the pensioners were pre-1960s, so they had their rights to the mineral, and that's why they got the 250. And most of that era of pensioners have died, and that's one of the reasons they stopped giving $250 to pensioners.
So what would the common misconception be from the public then about corruption? Like, like we highlight the corruption, like most people would not be aware of what has taken place in order for this corruption to flourish? I mean, and our freedoms, for instance, that we keep referring to are just disappearing. What would the misconception be for the public, purely and simply about corruption? What, as they see it, do you think?
So everyone knows how a sandwich is made. You need bread, butter, and spread. So bread, butter, and Vegemite for an example, and a butter knife to spread it, right?
Yeah.
That's how you make a sandwich. Well, what they've done is they've taken away the knife and they slapped a chunk of butter on it, chucked a chunk of Vegemite on it, and slapped the bread together and called it a nice made sandwich. Right? The procedure on how to make it. Now everyone's getting fat because they had too much butter and Vegemite because it wasn't spreaded. Right? So that's the procedure, and that's the, again, when you take that terminology and put it onto the lawmaking process, they've taken away the butter knife, right? And the jars that are the people are getting empty, while the people eating the sandwiches, who are the government agencies, they're getting fat on because they're not spreading it out and going where it needs to go. Other parts of the departments are becoming bankrupt or can't afford to fix the roads, for an example. And the people up top are getting fat. You tell me which MP is not fat, like overly fat, right? They're supposed to be sitting and talking to health ministers and all this, and the health ministers are fat. So that's the concept of it, right? I'm not just picking on the people themselves, but when you got more money, naturally you eat more. Right? That's just a default in our species. But when it comes to the legal or lawful way of things getting created, it is the procedure of the law and how it's got to be made. It's got to go to here, to here, to here. It's got to have the bread. It's got to have the knife. It's got to have the butter. It's got to have the spread. If that's not done, you can't call it a sandwich. Well, if it's not done, you can't call it law.
Well, it just amazes me. Like I'll be more specific about, like you get a rates bill, for instance, and you have a set amount that's saying is the rates, and then they have all these extra add-ons. So the rates itself might be $1,000, and by the time you finish all the extras on it, every year they seem to make up new fees for whatever. I know in one instance in little old Gavidgen out in the Callide Valley, the water rates are some enormous amount per kilolitre, and they just kept putting the price up and up and up, and people just switched their taps off. So what did they do? They just put the connection fee up. So now we're looking at, some enormous connection fee because no one could afford to use the water. So no one was paying them any money. So they just more than quadrupled the connection fee. So they're still getting the money. People can't use the water. It's just so many cases of this sort of thing going on. And to me, it appears that these things are all being done, certainly not in the benefit of the people. And these people are supposed to be there representing us and looking after us. I can't see that at all.
But again, out of all that conversation you've had, the major thing you've been speaking about is money.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they keep sucking out of us,
as
isn't
research,
it?
like as I was saying before, as a research, you've got a question, right? And so now you've got to question exactly what is money now.
You're right. You want to explain that one?
Sure, I can explain that. Like, for an example, is in the Currency Act, and this ain't legal advice, but this is what I found in the Currency Act. They only talk about coins and how to use the coins. So that's 10 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents, 20, 50s, $1, $2 coins, yeah? And how to use it and how many you can, and all that other stuff, right? Then you go to the Banking Acts of the Reserve Bank of Australia Act and, the Bankruptcy Act even. Is debt and credit. I've actually just spoken to someone else just previously in the last week about this stuff. When you go in the Bankruptcy Act, it's debt, and also in the RBA Act and all that, what's in your bank is credit, right? It can't be debt. You can't have debt in a bank. Debt cannot be money, but it cannot be coin either, because in the Coinage Act there is no debt. Okay.
Okay.
So in the Bankruptcy Act, coins can't be debt because it's credit. Australian notes, that's the $5, $10, $20, and $50 and $100 notes, cannot be debt either, because it is property of Australia. We have a right of use but no right of ownership. Like, for an example, if I lent you my car and you went to go buy a bottle of milk and someone offered you $10,000 for my car and you sold it, you can't do that. You've got a right of use, not a right of ownership. So in that process, that's what you've got of the money. You can't burn it, you can't deface it, you can't modify it, you can't do anything to it, but you can use it, right? When you go to the Electoral Act of Queensland 1992, the Voting Act, and you go into Australian property, money is Australian property. Australian property can be an asset, a liability. An asset is, it makes you something, gives you a benefit. A liability takes a loss, and collateral can be used against something. But property can never be debt. For an example, if you go into what we consider today with the bankruptcy, your house, let's say you ran into someone and they had a Ferrari, it's $1 million, and you had a $1.5 million house, right? For an example, and you got taken to bankruptcy court because you got to pay for the Ferrari, right? Your house becomes collateral for that bankruptcy. The house does not become the debt, but it becomes collateral for payment. You either pay the $1 million cash or you sell up your house for it. Either way, it's collateral by default. So therefore, if money is property and property can only be collateral, liability, and asset, it can't be debt. So the Australian notes cannot be used to pay your debt. The money under the Electronic Currency Act that most states have also can't be used as debt, because again, when the money is in the bank, it's a credit, and credit is not debt. Because if a credit is debt, then you can never be charged for overdrawing your bank.
Yet the banks survive on debt, don't they?
They survive on interest. They don't survive on debt.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems to me they create money out of nothing and then charges interest on using that nothing.
But that's still credit.
Yeah.
That's still credit. If you take $1,000 loan and you got to pay 10%, well, that's $10. That's $10 credit to the bank.
And it never becomes the $10,000 until you actually go out and earn it and put it and give it to them.
Well, again, now it comes down to I think it's 116 or 115 of the Constitution. Only the Commonwealth can coin money, can make money. And under the Electronics Act is that, so now you're using the state's electronics, you're talking about electronic banks here. You're not talking about notes here. So Electronics Act will now create a 78B in the Judiciary Act 1903 on the clear basis that 109 has now been enacted, because the Electronic Currency Act is in breach of Section 115 or 16 in regards to coining money.
Yeah.
Because they're creating money. That's what it is.
So if we were to deep dive into this actual rabbit hole of the Constitution, there's plenty of us saying that it's all been taken over. The politicians have basically, they're pirates, aren't they? They've taken over the bloody whole ship of Australia, and we don't seem to have any control left. Has any of this ever been done legally? I mean, when we delve into the constitutional side of it, if we go down that rabbit hole, where does that leave us, and how do we get it back?
You asked a very good question, right? And I'll somewhat try and answer it for you.
Okay.
So it's, just give me 1 second. I'm picking up the Constitution onto my other So when we come to have a conversation about it, I've got it.
I mean, there's so many rabbit holes that open up around this whole thing, but if we work on that one.
Well, I'll share screen in a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. We got it right here. Okay. So I'm running off 2 laptops here for disclosure. This is, again, how researchers work. You cross-reference documents, and you can't do it off the same computer. They take it over the Australia or the Constitution.
Yeah.
And well, what you're saying is quite correct, right? But then you got to look at the legislation. Was that legislation legally made?
Yeah.
Now I'll show you. I will show you. If you share, let me share screen.
Yeah, go for it, mate. Yep, you're right. It should be going now.
It is okay. Alrighty. Before I start, you said Australia and you said the country, right? There's no evidence that it's a country, but there's 100% evidence it's a self-governing colony.
Yes.
So, and if get our country back or our land back and all that other stuff, the Constitution, well, again, you have to go back to the legislation. Like your father could build a house, build, whatever, and didn't have to worry about the governor, or cut down all these trees and don't have to worry about fines, right? If he didn't like the endangered trees that's right in front of his doorstep, he can chop it down and go buy a seed and put another one somewhere else and have no trouble. That's because the legislation was made in its correct form. Again, with the bread, the butter, the knife, and the spread. Everything's done correctly. It's called a sandwich. If it's not done correctly, it's called a bread roll. Right? So it really comes down to the procedure. So for an example here, right, like when I go down to here and I've asked for the copies of any documents established in the lawful authority, constitutional authority of the Commonwealth Parliament. So, right, you got to.
So just to clarify, this was a freedom of information application, a right to information.
Correct. Yep. Right. This is the Commonwealth. This is a FOI, and it was done by the Office of Parliamentary Counsel. So you'll see in I think it's OPC soon.
Yep.
And that would mean the Office of Parliamentary Counsel. And that's the request number right there. So it's a legit document. And so the request was the Parliament after Statute Westminster Adoption Act 1942. So before I keep going, from 1942, the Commonwealth Parliament had no legal ties. Now, I'll show you that in a second, right? Hang on. Wrong one. Hang on. Let's go. So here we go. This is the one I should actually start on. So, freedom of information from the same people. I've asked for the original copy of the Australian Citizenship Act as enacted, including the wet ink signature of the Governor General, date of royal assent, parliamentary votes, I didn't get that. Proclamation certificate, never got that. Commonwealth of Australia consent entry, never got that. I'm just going to leave it there. That's what I asked for, and they gave it to me. So I'll go to here. This is the Australian Constitution, the original one of 2007. So that's what I was asking for. Then you go here, and this is, again, we'll make it bigger. If I'm going too quick, just let me know.
No, you're doing fine.
My brain runs pretty quick. So as you can see, it's been handwritten in. You come here. So I hereby certify this bill originate in the House of Representatives and has been finally passed by the Senate of House of Representatives. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In the name of Her Majesty, I assent to this bill. Governor, right? So I pledge my allegiance as an Australian citizen, I share the. So that there is pretty much on the 2007 preamble is their oath they got to take. So it's from this time forward under God, I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people who democracy believes I share, whose rights and liberties I respect, and whose laws I will uphold and obey. All right. Loyalty to Australia. Now, I did say before, what is Australia? Because you come here and you go to the Commonwealth and you go down and go to 6. Oh, 6. There we go. The Commonwealth shall mean the Commonwealth of Australia under this Act. Right? So if the Nationality Act was done under 51, right? So boundaries, border, this Parliament, Constitution, the power to make laws and peace for good governance of the Commonwealth, to respect trade, boundaries, taxation, currency. So again, when I talked about the dollars before, you should do your research on the dollars. Nationality. Where's nationalities? There you go. Nationalisation and aliens. Right?
Yeah.
That's 51. Both of those are 51, okay? Right. So he did an oath to Australia, was not ours. All right. So Australian citizen, right? Citizen of the Commonwealth, right? Schedule 1, the pledge of commitment, ours and a citizen of the Commonwealth of Australia. Hang on. A citizen of the Commonwealth of Australia, but you're doing a pledge of allegiance to Australia? Oh. Now I'll go back to where I was before. So any copies, creation of statutory 1942 to create the legal status Australian citizens. Give me a second, I've got to take, there we go. As later expressed in the Australian Citizenship Act 2007. Right? You guys just seen the creation of the act, right? And the oath that they made to it, yeah?
Yes.
Right. Well, that's this part here. Then you go B, create legal status of Australian citizens as later expressed in the Australian Citizenship Act 2007. Abolish or replace the imperial status of British subject. Alter, amend, reform, supersede the allegiance, nationality, or subjecthood recognised under the imperial law. Subjecthood, not citizen of the Commonwealth. Okay. Copies of any documents, number 2. Copies of any documenting that after 1942 Commonwealth Parliament retained lawful authority under Section 1 of the 1900 UK Constitution Act to enact naturalisation. So I showed you in 51. Nationality and Citizenship Act and the 2007, or any other act establishing the administration of Australian citizenship. Right?
Yep.
So I've been very precise in what I'm asking for.
So this was
if
in
you've got
your
any
request,
questions,
yeah?
I'm more than happy to just jump in.
So this is your request on your FOI?
Yeah, this is what I'm asking them to produce.
Yes.
Yeah, this is what I'm asking them to produce. And again, if you want me to slow down or you want to ask questions, just jump straight in. Don't worry about being polite. In response to part 1, your request, the OPC, so the Office of Parliament Counsel, does not hold documents that establishes the Commonwealth Parliament lawful constitutional authority to create the legal status of Australian citizen.
Jesus.
So there's 2 sentences here, right?
Yeah.
So they do not have the constitutional authority to create the legal. They do not hold documents that establish the Commonwealth Parliament's lawful constitutional authority. I showed you in Section 51 of the Constitution where they got the lawful authority. So if they don't have it, then they don't have authority to Section 51, correct? or alter allegiance, because again, I showed you the oath that they made to Australia.
Yeah.
After after reasonable research, no documents were identified. I therefore refuse access. Then, all right, straight up, they don't have the legal right. On Section 51, they have no legal right. So I go back to here, right? And banking, right? Currency, coinage, legal tender. Okay, banking, all right? Bills of exchange, can't touch that. Bankruptcy, they can't enforce that. They can't enforce that, right? This is what they're saying they don't have authority over, is the nationality and aliens, right? They don't have authority on that. That's it, right? And that is Section 51. Again, they got the bread, they got the butter, and they got the spread. They forgot the knife.
So how do they get away with this? I mean, and even in response to part 2, this response to part 2 of your request, once again, doesn't hold any
how they
documents.
get away with it? Well, again, like I said at the beginning, people don't read. Well, I didn't say people don't read, but read. Read becomes knowledge. That's the slave I was talking about. He found that having no knowledge is a worse way of being a slave than a slave of the body. Right? So it's all knowledge, because you can break the body and you can lock it up in a room for 10 years, 20 years, but if you don't break the mind, the person's still on day one before they got out, before they got put where they got put. Right? Another philosopher said to his master, he got captured and made a slave. I forget which one his name is. They kept twisting his leg, and he says, "You're going to break my leg." And then they broke his leg, and he goes, "See, told you, you're going to break my leg." And he's amazing. He's one of the main philosophers that people read on. His name leaves me, but his teaching stays. Right? It's all about the mind. He got enslaved. He was a free man who got enslaved, and his slaver broke his leg, and he said, "See, I told you." And his slaver had so much respect for him after all that. But now we'll go to Section 2 then. In Part 2 of your request, the OPC, the Office Parliamentary Council, does not hold documents demonstrating that after 1942, the Commonwealth Parliament retained lawful authority under Section 1 of the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act to enact Nationality and Citizenship Acts. So I've got all the 53s, 2007. After reasonable searches, no such documents were identified. Therefore, I refuse under Section 24A. Okay, then the Nationality and Citizenship Act, 1953, I won't pull it up, but I'll talk on it. The reason I've got it in there, okay, is 100% only for in there they made the oath to us as an Australian citizen in 1953. And what meant that all nationalities in 1953, all the MPs or House of Representatives, whatever you want to call them, became an Australian citizen, what breached 44I that I'll get to later. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so, and then number 3 of my response, of your request, access does not apply because it goes to open access. So it's only 1 and 2 in this document. 4. Whereas does not hold the documents confirming the Commonwealth Parliament retained constitutional power to nationality determine place the subjects after 1940 after reasonable searches. So in response to your request, does not hold documents confirming that the Commonwealth Parliament retained constitutional power to legislate nationality, determine allegiance, or redefine subjectship after 1942 after reasonable. So 1, 2, and 4 of this FOI says they can't touch the Constitution whatsoever. Right? They can't touch the Constitution whatsoever.
So when I asked before about what corruption looks like in Australia, we're looking at it, aren't we?
That is correct. This is so this here, for everybody's knowledge, This is the preamble. Okay.
Yes.
I will show why it's the preamble. It makes it easy. If I show it now, it makes it easy for people to understand. So, as follows. So, from there up is not down here. So, chapter 1, the Parliament, okay, because that's where the laws are made. Part 1 is general. The legislative power, so this is how the laws are made, of the Commonwealth shall be vested in. So these are the vested in means that they have the authority to do. In the legislative federal parliament, so the parliament, where you just read the parliament say they don't have the constitutional authority, which shall consist of the Queen, they removed the Queen, 1942, a Senate, and a House of Representatives. Well, they still have the Senate and House of Representatives. The Parliament's removed. They took the Queen out. Okay, they took the Queen out. That's the documents I got given. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing and you ask me some more questions, and then while you're asking questions, I will pull up one more document.
This is all pretty amazing for me, because basically what I said was right. They've taken over our country and they've just blatantly done it. And because I would assume that they've taken over our whole legal system as well, so we can't even challenge what they've done. I hope we can, but can we? I mean,
Well,
it's black and white there. I mean, you've shown me the evidence. They've actually admitted that they don't have the right to do these things, and yet they still continue to do them at the detriment of all of us.
It's not that they've taken over. It's that the ancestors preserved our constitution. You got to remember that this war was happening way before our time, right?
Okay.
And the governments to be, like again with another nice document that I've heard of, is keeping the Queen in Queensland, how they double entrenched. So there's a lot of parliaments, or we'll call them MPs today, right? It's easier. There's a lot back then who stopped the corruption or massive corruption. So I believe that federally there was some people in there protecting us, knowing that people were going to abuse the legislative system and make laws to suit themselves, right? And like Des says, right, when you're talking about David Walter stuff, the Commonwealth is lay dormant. So I'm going to show you a laying dormant. Show you what lay dormant looks like. Just give me 1 second. My apologies. It's just.
So would that be fair to say that after, was that date 1942, was it?
Yeah, 1942, yeah.
So after 1942, everything that's come out of our parliament is basically crap and bullshit?
100%. For something that's not going to be done on documents. So the 1948 document under section 34 of that document talks of marriage. I'm not worried about the marriage part of the document. Everyone jumps on it. No worries. You can all higgle about the marriage of it yourselves. In that part, it says whether you're an Australian citizen or a British subject immediately prior to this act. So if you have an Australian citizen and a British subject before the act was made, that act never created the Australian citizen, because the Australian citizen was made before the act.
Yes.
You can't have something before an act if the act made the status of nationality, right? Like if they made an act saying that the Chinese is as good as being a British subject or an Australian citizen here. They don't need a visa and passport and all that, right? And as immediately prior to this act that was made, well, Chinese were around prior to this act that just got made. But if they say after this act, then they're claiming the Chinese were not around before the act, right? And there's some acts that says after this act, like the 2007 Australian Citizenship Act the original one. I will now share screen again. I've pretty much got it now. So as you can see, well, maybe you can't see, a little bit too big. Okay, so as you can see here, right, on which date receives royal assent, right, the commencement, Section 1 of any of this Act does not, as we're covered by this table, this day on, the day on which this Act receives royal assent. All right. Well, it's already received royal assent, all that other good stuff.
So
but that's the way
what document's
it's
this one? What document's this
so
one?
This is the This is the original Australian Citizenship Act.
What year is that? 2007.
2007, number 20. Single day fixed by proclamation or two. Right. So here we go to this bit here. Right. A single day to be fixed by proclamation. However, if by provisions S do not commence within the period of 6 months, beginning of the day of 12th of this Act, on which this Act receives royal assent, they commence on the day after, of the period. So if it says before, then it's before this Act. If it's after this Act. So in the 1948 Nationality and Citizenship Act, it speaks of before. So we'll come here to Statute Westminster Adoption Act, and we'll go down. Here we go. So number 4, okay, right there. Number 4, no act of Parliament of the United Kingdom passed after the commencement of this Act shall extend or be deemed to extend to the Dominion. For everyone's knowledge, Dominion means like Commonwealth, Queensland, stuff like that. It's referring to the Commonwealth Parliament here as part of the law of that Dominion, unless expressed, declared in that Act. So in that Act, that the Dominion has requested and consented to the commencement thereof. Right? So federally, okay, they have to request it. All right. Now, this is how I know that they didn't do the Australian Citizenship Act. Right. Notes of the Statute Westminster Adoption Act. Note 1. The statute, I'll make that a bit bigger again. There you go. The Statute of Westminster Adoption Act 1942, as shown in this complication, Companies Act number 56, 1942, amended as indicated in the tables below. The Australian Parliament has on 3 occasions passed acts requesting, consenting. Again, I read Section 4. This is in regards to Section 4. Consenting to the enactment by Parliament of the United Kingdom of acts extending Australia to Australia and the acts of Parliament of Australia, right? Of the Parliament of Australia. Well, it's not the Parliament of the Commonwealth as to the Constitution. And of the Parliament of the United Kingdom, respectively, as follows. So these are the acts that have been expressed: Australia Request Act, Consent Act, Christ Killings Islands Request Consent, and Christmas Islands Request Consent Act. Right, and these are the acts that's United Kingdom's acts, right? Because they can't touch the Constitution, they have to ask for permission. They got to ask for permission under Section 4. By law, because we're looking at the law that they apply to, not legal advice, not legal assumption, by law and by their own admission, by their FOIs and their own acts, the Australian currency, you're worrying about rates. You're worrying about rates in the Australian dollar. That's how the Section 51, they say they don't have a... Do they have the Currency Act expressed? Can you show me where the Currency Act that's been expressed? Where's the 1966? Where's the Reserve Bank of Australia Request Act? Where's the Bankruptcy Act?
So when it says requesting consent, and they've requested from the Crown or the the UK to be able to pass the Australia Act? What's
Well,
that actually mean in layman's terms?
Section 4, no act of parliament passed after the commencement of this act shall extend to be deemed to extend to the Dominion. So no act of parliament passed after the commencement of this act shall extend to be deemed to extend to the Dominion as part of the laws of that Dominion,
So
unless it is expressly declared in that act that the Dominion has requested and consented to the commencement thereof.
They're not allowed to change. They basically changed altered the Constitution's meaning.
Hang on.
Is that what's happened here?
No, they never changed the constitutional meaning. What they've done is under section, no Parliament of the United Kingdom after the commencement shall be extend to the Dominion part of the laws of that Dominion unless expressly declared. So we'll go back to the Commonwealth Constitution, and after passing number 8, Colonial Boundaries Act shall not apply to any colony which becomes a state of the Commonwealth, but the Commonwealth shall be taken to be a self-governing colony for the purposes of those acts. Right? 7, the Federal Council, the Commonwealth. Right? So therefore, it's a self-governing colony for the purpose of that. It's a colony to the United Kingdom. So here we go. Whereas all the people of New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Queensland, and Tasmania, humbly relying on the blessing of Almighty God, have agreed to unite in one United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland under the Constitution hereby established. So the Commonwealth Constitution is a United Kingdom. Yeah,
and the part there that says to an indissoluble federal Commonwealth.
First, we just worry about this bit here, right? For now. Agreed to unite in one indissoluble federal Commonwealth under the crown of the United Kingdom. Under the crown. So you can't remove nothing of this because it's under the crown. Right? It is part of the crown. And then, yes, you go to 9.8, and it's a self-governing colony for the purposes of that act. And hang on. Now you got to go and ask, is this act a United Kingdom Act? Well, it is. So the Commonwealth of Australia, the Commonwealth, is still applied as a Commonwealth legislation, as a United Kingdom legislation as to the preamble. Right? Again, shall vested in a legislative power which be called the Parliament of power of the Commonwealth shall be vested in a federal Parliament which shall consist of the Queen, a Senate, and the House of Representatives. The Queen's no longer there. I just showed you in section 4 where they removed the Queen. Right? Because I just showed you in the preamble of the Constitution where this is a self-governing colony still held to it's a United Kingdom colony. It's not a Commonwealth of Australia colony. It is a United Kingdom colony. This is their act. That's why they don't have authority under section 1 and 2. That's why they don't have authority under section 1. Because section 1 is the Queen.
So where's that leave us, Jayden?
And they removed it in section 4. The Parliament of the United Kingdom. We don't have the Parliament of the Commonwealth is the Parliament of the United Kingdom. Because the governor's supposed to be the Queen while the Queen's not here. So the Parliament here is the Parliament of the United Kingdom.
Well, when the King was here recently, he never even stepped foot in the Parliament.
There's so much I wouldn't know where to start to give it to you guys. It overwhelms me even when I try to explain it to people because it does my head in. So I'll go to the Nationality and Citizenship Act, right? 1953. You said that King Charles came in and couldn't do anything?
Yes, well, that was
Right.
only very recently, wasn't it? He never even
It was.
entered our parliament.
I was down Victoria. I never actually went and saw it, but I was down Victoria. So the big B, little e, that's done correctly, they say. All right.
Right.
So it was assented 11th of December. Okay, 1953. Do you remember when Queen Elizabeth came and said that she can't control armies and all that of Australia anymore, or the Commonwealth anymore?
Yeah.
I think it was the 23rd of December, Christmas, I think, just before Christmas. Queen Elizabeth came to the Commonwealth, to Australia, and stated it. She can't control and do all that stuff anymore. If she goes to war, we don't have to. I'll make it a bit bigger so the camera picks it up and
Yep.
people can pause and have a read. So, for the fact of the recording, I'll read it. I'm not actually doing it. I AB swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, heirs and assessors according to law, and that I will be faithful to observe the laws of Australia and fulfil my duties as an Australian citizen.
Shit.
Any questions about that? Yeah.
And who swore this oath?
Oh, this is the nationality. You know how I went with the FOI
Yes.
here, and I ask for allegiance.
Yeah.
Where's allegiance? Imperial status allegiance here. Well, I'm asking for allegiance, and then you come here and take an oath as an Australian citizen. That they had no legal right to make. Right, you get what I'm cooking. Okay. I'll let you do the reading on this one. Just the I there, mate. Under any person who.
Can you make it a little bit bigger?
I can definitely do that. Oh, back one. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Yep. Any person who is under any acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, of adherence to a foreign power, or is a subject or a citizen, or entitled to the rights of or privileges of a subject or a citizen of a foreign power, or...
All right, stop there for a second. I'm going to show you some of my RTIs now.
Yeah.
Okay. And tell me. All right, I'll get back to 53 at the end. Right. So now we got here, can't touch section 1, can't create the Australian citizen. That's 1, okay? Right.
Mm.
Then you go here. Oh, please load in. Okay, here we go. The wedding signature.
Yeah.
All right. So the royal assent, parliamentary. I think I act for allegiance too, I'm pretty sure. Well, okay, so we got this one and we'll go to, all right. I pledge my loyalty. From this day forward, I pledge my loyalty to Australia and its people, Australian citizens. I be certified. I hereby assent to this bill. Commencement. Hang on. Read for what it says. Pledge of commencement as a citizen
Of the Commonwealth
of
of
the
Australia.
Commonwealth. So it's foreign. Pledge of community.
So give it to us in layman's terms, Jayden. What's basically happened here?
Our ancestors protected us, and the after effect committed, in my opinion, and only my opinion, I've always said it, is treason. Or I'll be nice and say it's a breach of Section 44I.
So when this says it's had the royal assent, it actually hasn't had a royal assent?
No. It had royal assent, right? Under acknowledgement, allegiance, obedience entitled to rights and privileges of that subject of a foreign power. They're foreign powers. They got the allegiance. They did the oath as an Australian citizen in 1953.
Right.
1953. Proper act. Big E, big B, little E. Nationality. As an Australian citizen, it's a breach of Section 44I. You can, I call it treason, but it's a clear breach of Section 40. If you want to talk about just law, it's a breach of Section 44I.
So this is a clear breach in 1953.
That's right. Yeah, clear breach. Oh, mate, no. Clear breach would be this one. Section 4. That's a clear breach. They kicked the Queen out.
Yeah. So where's that leave us, mate?
That left where most groups have always been. Unfortunately, they slowly leave you alone, or they pick on you. I don't know. Ultimately, they haven't left me alone. But as I showed you before, this is what's this one? Just give me a second. I hereby swear. So that's my nationality. Okay. So I go back here. So this is a Australian States Constitution Act 1907. Right. So now I'm going state specific, mate. I'm please ask questions, especially hard questions. Okay.
So since 1942, basically none of their laws have been lawfully enacted.
Pretty much.
So once again, I keep asking the same.
Federally.
Federally, yes.
Yeah. Federally.
But aren't the states part of the federation? How does it affect them?
Yeah. Okay. That's a very good question. I wasn't expecting that question, but I'm glad you gave me a hard one. I was not actually expecting people to ask those questions. They're the questions that get overlooked, the binding questions.
Okay.
Because you are right. If you can't connect the Commonwealth to the state, there's no point knowing it. Yeah.
I would believe so.
There's no point knowing how to ride a horse if you don't ever expect to ride a horse in your life. Yeah.
Exactly.
So 106, the Constitution of each state of the Commonwealth. So even though they have the Constitution of each state of the Commonwealth, so they are still one and the same. They're held to the shall subject to this Constitution contain as the establishment of the Commonwealth or as the administration of the establishment of the state, as the case may be, until altered in accordance with the Constitution of that state, the state. Now we're going to one not so that to me says that the state's constitution is part of the Commonwealth, right? But it still runs itself. So it's just like you have a son and the son's in your house. He's 16, 17 years old and he's still living under your roof, under your rules, but he's his own man kind of concept, yeah?
So the states themselves have been affected by that change of the Commonwealth, though, like when since 1942, has that directly affected the states with their constitutions?
Yes, it does. Every state has a constitution. Inside there has a fee schedule, let's call it.
Right.
And that fee schedule remains in the pound when the constitution has made it in the dollar. Does that not affect the constitution when the magistrates, the judge, the councillors get paid in the pound while the federal's got the Australian dollar? Does that not affect on how things worked? It's pretty plain and simple. right? So if the Commonwealth becomes, because now the Constitution's part of the Commonwealth, when the Commonwealth changes to the dollar legally, the state's constitution has to be changed into the dollars legally, right, to pay the people. Never happened.
Yes.
So never was legit, as I've shown in my FOIs. That came from the government that, So 107, every power of the Parliament of the colony, so state now, which has became or becomes a state, shall, unless it is by this constitution expressly vested in the parliaments of the Commonwealth, or withdrawn from the Parliament of the state, continue as the establishment of the Commonwealth, or as to the admission or establishment of the state, as the case may be. So the question you're asking before, the states are part of the Commonwealth. Well, here it is, right? So when the 1942 said, bugger off, United Kingdom, the states said that too, because under 107 they're one and the same, but they left. Again, the son paradox. Your son's 17, lives under your rules. He's still got to follow your rules of your house, but he's got his own rules, right, in his own room. Okay, bit of leadway, but he's still under the same house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then 108. Every law enforced in the colony which has become or becomes a state in relating to any matter within the powers of the Parliament of the Commonwealth shall be subject to the Constitution, continue in force in the state, and until provision is made in the behalf of the Parliament of the Commonwealth, the Parliament of the state shall have such powers of alterations and of appeal in respect to any such law as Parliament of the colony had until the colony becomes a state. So my interpretations of 108 is they still got the same. Again, the son's got his own little room with rules, but he's still got to follow your rules. But ultimately,
Yeah.
So that's the administration of states to federal. Then 109. Okay. 109.
So that looks like this one looks like it's a beauty. When a law,
I love this.
when a
This
law,
is going to tie everything in together, right? Only for Queensland. Unfortunately, right. I don't do research for other states.
Okay.
I should, but I don't. 109. When a law of the state is inconsistent with the law of the Commonwealth, the latter shall prevail, and the former shall, to the extent of that law, inconsistent be invalid. Okay, well, again, I brought that up with the Queensland Constitution or any other constitution. It says in the pound, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, etc. They all say pound, but you got the Australian dollar. So now it's inconsistent. Now you got to go with a 78B of the Judiciary Act, and that's 1903 as well, Act. And it goes to a constitutional matter. And again, with my FOI, they don't have the authority to touch Section 51, but they don't have authority under Section 1 either. So they don't have authority to become a magistrate or a justice or a judge to fulfill that order.
And this would ultimately create a huge rabbit hole where Queensland's concerned, surely, because they walked away from our upper house, didn't they, in the state? Well, and if that would bring 109 right into the into content, wouldn't it? Like when a law of the state contradicts the.
Well, as I left with the 109, where law becomes inconsistent with the state, right?
Yeah.
So this is how I'm tying it up with 109. The Australian States Constitution Act 1907, it's a United Kingdom legislation. There it is there. Everyone can see it. by
Can you make
by
it
the King's
can you
Most
make it a bit
Excellency.
bigger? Can you make that a bit bigger?
Unfortunately, I can't. It knocks it
Oh,
around.
okay. Righto. Okay.
But I do have the Act itself, and here it is here. So in here it's the state constitution, imperial laws. So imperial, when you see imperial on documents, it's a United Kingdom document,
Right.
right? It's originating from United Kingdom.
Okay.
Right? An act to amend the laws relating to the reservation of, for his Majesty's pleasure, of bills passed by legislators of the states forming part of the Commonwealth of Australia.
Yeah, right.
Right? To confirm certain acts by passed of those legislatures. So in this part, he's pretty much saying that a lot of crap buggers are in the place, and he wants to make sure that they can't, do a doozy. This was done in the 2nd of August 1907. This is a federal act. 109 gets kicked in on this one. 109 gets kicked in on the dollar as well. So if you're talking about other states, but because you're talking about Queensland's constitution, I'm only going to speak about on Queensland constitution.
Yep.
I'll go to section 1A. That's all I need to go on this section. I don't have to go anymore. Reservation of bills. 1. There shall be a reserved for his significant of his Majesty's pleasure thereon every bill passed by the legislator of any state forming part of the Commonwealth of Australia. See that? Not Australia, Commonwealth of Australia.
Commonwealth of Australia.
Which alters the constitution of the legislator of the state or of either house thereof. So I will say alter the constitution of the legislator of the state or either house. Well, they've removed the upper house in Queensland, so it is.
It's definitely been altered.
Yep. So they never changed the legislator, right? The bread and butter that I was talking about, right? But what they did is the second part, what is the either house. Well, they removed one of the houses.
Yes, and that happened.
That's all I have to do is 1A on this document. 109, we're going to federal. Once I get to federal, I've got the FOIs. They can't touch me.
Yeah.
As you know, I've got a case that is still pending. I'll reserve myself on that, but I've not. It's been over a month now, and they have not given me a date to proceed.
They're not real keen to face you by the sound of it.
Everything I'm speaking to you right now is more than this is in my case.
Yes.
In regards to the Australian citizen and the breach of Section 44I, treason. I left the word treason out, but I referred to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying about the 1922. Well, okay, we'll go here. These two right here. We'll go here. So this is Department of Premier and Cabinet. This is where the laws are made by me. I refer to your application. I will make this bigger. Make one smaller. Okay. For all archive records, gazettes of instruments, roll of sand relating to the Constitution Amendment Act 1922 Queensland, which abolished the Legislative Council. The form of assent granted to that act, including the confirmation whether the assent was given. So if you don't give it, give me the confirmation by the governor in the name of His Majesty King George V or by alternative authority. All right?
Yeah.
Because if you go on Google, they say that they didn't need the King's assent, they didn't need this and that because they voted it out. Well, that's the any alternative authority, right?
Yes.
3. Any documents corresponding or legal opinions held by the Queensland government conforming, and the reason I said that there in that little 3 there, I'm going to say right now, is because they say they took it to the top lawyers of that day and they said they weren't doing anything illegal or unlawful of treason, right? They did a lot of making sure before they did it. So I asked for that because they also Google also says that that
So
the
you've asked for that
constitutional
evidence, yeah.
amendment,
So you asked for that evidence.
Well, Google says
that it
Google
exists.
says that they've asked lawyers, and Google said that they didn't need the king to amend the constitution because they voted themselves out, and that's the eternal authority. Because the preamble of the 1867 says it has to be done by the king. And I spoke to a bloke last week or so ago, and it blew his mind. Right, blew his mind. In the Constitution, 1867 says that the king or queen has to sign anything to do with the legislation of 1867. But you go Google or anything, not just AI, Google, WhatsApp, whatever. They all say that the council voted themselves out. They shut shop that day. They also say that Google and all that say DuckDuckGo says that after all that stuff, they also, before they did vote themselves out, they did get legal advice to make sure they weren't doing anything dodgy. Right? And then come back, confirm they weren't. So I'm asking the documents in regards to that.
Yeah.
Passed by the Queensland Parliament, including the 1922 Act, where lawfully assented to under the Imperial Crown Authority consistent with the requirements of the Colonial Law Civility Act 1865. Because in that act there, if they changed the 1922, it should have went to every government department. They should have got a copy. Right? They should have got a copy.
Yeah.
Any seals, advertisement, notifications on transmission to the United Kingdom, such a sense was also recorded, transmitted, and confirmed by the United Kingdom. So that bit there, number 4, is really important. Okay, absolutely important, because now I'm saying you sent it there because it says on the 1922 it's reserved for the royal assent. Well, it means that the king signed, but they say the king signed it later. Okay, that's what they say. They say the king signed it later. All right, then tell me why I got a letters patent revoking the bloke who's supposed to have made it.
Yeah.
All the way from 1900, 1925. But the king signed it, right? So that's what that little bit there, which I know records exist. I request a formal non-existence of documents, right? So this one's also important because I'm saying if it doesn't exist, tell me.
Yeah.
Right? Authority, decision. I have today decided to refuse access to the information requested in accordance with Section 47.3e, Section 43, subsection 3, subsection E, and Section 52, subsection 1 of the RTI Act, documents non-existent. So I know you're supposed to be asking me the questions, Dave, but I want to ask you, what does non-existent means to you?
It means they don't exist.
Non-existent means to me is that it's like we're videoing on Zoom right here tonight, right?
Yeah.
And let's say in the morning I got done for murdering someone in Brisbane.
Yeah.
At, what's the time now? 12:01 in the morning, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But we got this video imaging providing evidence we're nowhere near Brisbane. Okay?
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm in Rocky and you're in Yabun or Grace Mirror, wherever you're out. And I get arrested for murder, right? And they say I shot the bloke. And they got video. Well, that video is non-existent. Right? That's all they got is the video, they're saying. Well, it can't exist. It can't exist because
you weren't there.
The physical was never there. Right? That's what non-existent means.
And that's what it means here.
Well, that's what it means across the board. Non-existent means it's never happened, can't happen. It's illogical.
Yeah.
You can't even imagine it because it's non-existent. You can't imagine. You can't make a story that it happened because I got evidence that I was never there. Right? That's what a non-existent means. So and then
in this decision, though, when they're saying this, are they admitting that it doesn't exist, or are they just saying they're going to refuse
No,
They couldn't.
no, because if they're going to do that, they would have said something like this. Therefore, I refuse under Section 44. Therefore, I refuse access under Section 44. If they were going to refuse, they would have refused in that degree.
Okay.
And then you want to go, okay, well, I did ask in Section 5, didn't I? Hang on. Yeah, Section 3, 4, 5. No, it's just okay. Seals and format of the Section 4, sorry. Any seals, important notifications, transmission, what means it's gone to them, to the United Kingdom, if such was also recorded, transmitted, or confirmed by the United Kingdom, right, from the monarch. Okay, here now. And this here, while it's loading, I'll speak on it. This is the United Kingdom in regards to the 1922. Right. So hang on. Yeah. There's the reference number, so it's a legit thing. It was done. Right. So now I'm asking, right? I write to make a formal request for the information pursuant to Freedom of Information 2000 UK. I seek all records held by the National Archives of the Cabinet of the Office of Privy Council or any other Imperial Crown corresponding Constitutional Amendment Act 1922, Queensland Commonwealth, which abolished the Legislative Council. Especially, I request access to any instruments, warrants, certificates, or records of royal assent granted to the Constitutional Amendment Act 1922, Queensland, in the name of His Majesty King George V. Any correspondence, submissions, or confirmations between the Governor of the Queensland and the Colonial Office, Dominions Office, Privy Council, or the monarch relating to that act. Any records evidence the compliance with the Colonial Laws Validity Act 1865 UK in relations to that act. Any seals, embroiderment, transmission, records, all the same stuff I was put on the last one. No records. If no records exist, I request a formal confirmation that no such records are held. This request follows the formal determination by Queensland Department of Department.
That's brilliant, mate.
Of Premier and Cabinet under the Right of Information Act 2009 that no such records exist within Queensland government custody, and I now seek to determine whether such records exist within the Imperial Crown repositories of the United Kingdom. If any part of this request is considered exempt, I request any non-existent portions to be released in accordance with the Section 1 of the Freedom of Information Act 2000. Please advise if any information requests that I prefer in reason of electronic form. This is what they said. We are writing to advise you the following search of our papers, electronic records. We have established that the information you request are not held by the Cabinet Office, including the Privy Council Office. So they don't have the information. It's never been sent to the United Kingdom to be passed.
Yeah.
Right? Queensland doesn't have it. United Kingdom doesn't have it. Yeah, the Commonwealth removed itself from the United Kingdom in 1942. And 106, 107, 108 kind of says Queensland's part of the Commonwealth, and if the Commonwealth can't make laws because of Parliament, doesn't that mean that the Parliament of the Commonwealth and Parliament of States are one and the same, but they have their own duties? Would that not mean that because the Commonwealth can't be touched, the states can't be touched, so therefore every law from New South Wales from 1942, for an example, or Victoria, South Australia, I'm not discriminative, would also be deemed null and void because of 1942, because the Parliament is one and the same under 108, I believe, of the Constitution.
That's powerful stuff, Jayden. I mean, we've got the Queensland government admitting no such documents exist. We've got the UK government stating that no such documents exist. There's no such assent given. That's pretty powerful stuff.
No. Well, it's 107. So 107, I got a bit of backlash. So 107, every power of the Parliament of the colony, which has became or becomes a state, shall, unless it is by this Constitution exclusively vested in the Parliament of the Commonwealth or withdrawn from the Parliament of the state, continue as established of the Commonwealth. So they're saying in 107 that the Parliament of the Commonwealth is the Parliament of the state. They're one and the same.
Yeah.
Even though they have separate people and separate rules and stuff like that, they are one and the same under 107. So in 1942, every state is also now, sorry, not every state, I'll speak correctly. Every people of New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Queensland, and Tasmania do not have a government or a parliament since 1942. The people of New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Queensland, and Tasmania do not have a parliament since 1942. So yes, it does affect all states. If you read 107, 106, 107, 108. Right? Then every law is inconsistent with 109 because, again, with the Australian Constitution Act 1907, one act is now breached. It's all acts are breached because, again, whereas New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Queensland, right? That's not or and. That's one system. It's got commas. It's one system. So when one system, look, think of it this way, right? Each state here is a body part of a human. You hack off a body part, you'll bleed out. You'll kill the system. You'll kill the body. You'll die. Right? They cut Queensland off. The Commonwealth died in 1942. It bled out. It took 20 years for them to bleed out.
Since 1922 to 1942.
20 years it took them. 20 years to bleed out. Right? Now it's from 1942. It's a dead carcass.
Yeah.
Legally.
But this is the dilemma that I see that we face, though. Like you say, legally, okay, but they own the courts. It's their system. Their courts are run by their corporation. It's not our courts anymore. It's not our. We don't go and get judged by our peers in the Commonwealth, do we?
All the states.
So how? Yeah, all the states itself. So how do we bring this back to where it's supposed to be? If we can't go to anyone legally and say, well, we've got it there in black and white. You've just shown me in black and white the evidence, but who do we show it to and how do we get it? How do we get it corrected?
Well, that's why I'm going through the procedure that I'm going through right now. For me to further answer that correctly, I will have to wait until my case is finalised and a friend who's doing something very similar. But for the people that are listening and they want to do something and want to make thing and all that, right? ACA's got all the information and we're not like most other groups. We don't go out there looking for it or we don't go out and give a hell of a lot of documentation to said governments, right? one is that we got to stay in honour, right? You don't bother me, I don't bother you concept. But we have the evidence that we would put forward and really make trouble, right? It's with numbers. It's with numbers. You've got to have numbers, and it's exposure of the evidence. That's your best bet. They got the bigger gun. They got more manpower. If
Yeah.
you're thinking down that line, they've got bigger guns. They got more manpower than what we do. Another thing is what we got is we got information and the truth. The truth scares everyone that's doing something wrong. You catch a
Exactly.
lawyer out and you talk about it in public, and you see lawyers really scramble for safety, right? They know they're not going to get beaten up. They know they're not going to get chucked in jail, but their body treats it as such, right? So
Yes.
the best weapon we have, truly, is spreading the information. This is not sovereign citizen. This is not gobbledygook. This is not pseudo legal. This is their documents that they made before I was born. It's not my fault that 1953 has an Australian citizen oath. It's not my fault that in Section 34 of the nationality, actually, I will pull up that nationality and Citizenship Act. Just give me 1 second. It's not my fault that they did this. This was all before I was born, right? I'm just
Okay.
spreading the information the best I can, um, as everyone should. So
So this is 1948, is it?
this is 1948, yeah. So in this act, alien means a person who is not a British subject or a citizen or a protected person, right? British subject
Yeah.
means a person who is deemed to be a British subject under provisions of this act. So provisions of this act. See, this act. I'm making that very expressive because you gotta understand in a second. Okay,
Okay.
34.7. A person in this act is an Australian citizen or by any enactment of the time being in force in a country to which subsection applies is a citizen of that country, shall by virtue of that citizenship be a British subject. The country to which this section are follows countries, namely the United Kingdom and colonies. Again, I read to you on the Commonwealth Constitution.
We're a
We
colony of the
are
United Kingdom.
we are a colony under Section 8
Yeah.
of the United Kingdom, right? As I previously read.
Yes.
The Boundaries Act is a United Kingdom Act. Um, whereas the people, the blessing of the United Kingdom, the crown under the crown. So we're under the Federal Commonwealth under the crown. Okay. So go back here, colonies. So all the other is pretty nice to know, but that's the only stuff you need to know. Continuous to certain Irish and British subjects, right? An Irish citizen who immediately prior to the commencement date of this act was also a British subject shall not by reason of any for anything contained in the last preceding section deemed to have ceased to be a British subject.
Right.
So again, because of Section 7, we're still British subjects regardless.
Yeah.
At any time, the notice of prescribed, right? So then you got to be done service government. That's a different conversation altogether. Hold an Australian passport, all that other fancy stuff. Number 9, right? Number 9, a British subject or an Irish citizen who is not an Australian citizen. Again, if Australian citizen and an Australian citizen and British subjects are one and the same, this have to make this section would not make no sense if Australian citizens and British subjects were one and the same, like they claim. British subject or an Irish citizen who is not an Australian citizen shall not be guilty. Okay, I'll read that again. A British subject, that's me, or an Irish citizen, that is me also, who is not an Australian citizen, that is me, shall not be guilty, so I can't be guilty, of an offence under any law of the Commonwealth. I'm going to highlight that for a second. Any law of the Commonwealth. Oh, I'm going to love this. You are too. 106. Well, look at that. The Constitution of each state of the Commonwealth. The Constitution of each state of the Commonwealth shall be subject to the Constitution, comma, continue as a establishment of the Commonwealth. Does that not mean that Queensland law is technically Commonwealth laws?
It would appear so.
Would it not appear that the Constitution of Queensland is a Constitution of the Commonwealth now?
Yes.
Okay, so now we're talking about the Queensland Constitution is now legislation of the Commonwealth. Okay, so we'll go 107. Every power of the Parliament of the colony which became a state shall, unless by this Constitution expressly vested in the Parliament of the Commonwealth or withdrawn from the Parliament of the state, continue as establishment of the Commonwealth. Okay, I'll stop there. So the Constitution is now the Commonwealth's Constitution. The Parliament is now the Commonwealth's Parliament. All right, that's fucking beautiful. I like that. We'll go back here, right? A British subject who is not an Australian citizen be guilty of an offence under the Commonwealth. I just read you 106 and 107. Our Constitution's under the Commonwealth. That puts me under the Commonwealth. My Parliament's under the Commonwealth. That puts me under the Commonwealth. That's what it's saying right in front of you. It's not saying under the Constitution of the Commonwealth. Any law. 106 makes the Queensland Constitution any law of the Commonwealth. 107 makes any law of the Commonwealth. 108 makes everything of the Commonwealth in regards to the state. So I shall not be guilty or of a territory other than the Navigation Act by reason of anything done or omitted to be done. I can say I murdered someone. I won't go that far. But, they can't touch you. You still got to go before your peers. So if you do kill someone, you still can be hanged by your peers in the correct place, time and all that crap. So we're not scot-free. We're not scot-free, but Australia can't touch us.
As British subjects.
Yeah, as a British subject, Australia can't touch us. Australian citizens can't interact with us.
And they created Australian citizens.
Yeah,
after
they didn't create it. I'm going to show you that.
Mate, this is doing my head in.
Yeah, well, mate, it's going to get better. So I'm not going to read all of it. Just going to read bits of it that's relevant to me, like everybody, like all lawyers do, and everybody else. 26.1. Person who was a British subject immediately prior to the date commencement of this act. I'll stop there for a second. In my thought process, that means before this act in 1947. They're talking about the British subjects of that time.
Yeah.
And was not at that date, so in 1940, right? 1940 was not at that date an Australian citizen. So 1947, 1946, etc. Or a citizen of a country to which Section 7 applies. And again, I showed you 7. It says United Kingdom and colonies. And again, I showed you that the Commonwealth is the self-governing colony of the United Kingdom. That's United Kingdom and colonies. Okay? So that's where we sit, right? Of which this act applies, an Irish citizen shall remain a British subject without citizenship, but shall cease to be a British subject without citizenship if he becomes an Australian citizen of any such country, an Irish citizen, or an alien. I'll read that again. Without citizenship, if he becomes an Australian citizen, a citizen of, a citizen, so that's two things, citizen of such or an alien. So it's saying here that if you become an Australian citizen, you cease to be a British subject, but I read you the definition of British subjects and alien, didn't I?
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm going to 34. Marriage are born without wedlock, merely that part don't matter. Again, like I said earlier, it's about marriage. Not interested. determining whether he was an Australian citizen or was a British subject immediately prior, directly before this act, to the date of the commencement of this act, before the commencement of this act, as he has been born in wedlock. So an Australian citizen was here before this act was made. This act is said in Section 34 that Australian citizens were around before this act was made.
So, but this is Australian citizens. What's this
Whether
act?
he is an Australian citizen or a British subject immediately prior,
Hmm.
or a British subject.
So it was possible to be an Australian citizen before this act.
You can't be an Australian citizen and British subject. 26 says you can't. Section 26 says that cannot be. What you're thinking cannot happen. You're either one
or
the
British
other.
subject. So how did they, after that date, how are they saying that you are now an Australian citizen if you haven't agreed? If you haven't agreed to become an Australian citizen?
Honestly, your question is as good as mine.
Right.
Honestly, no, I'm being serious.
Yes.
Your question is as good as mine. I don't know how they did it, but Australian citizens were around before this commencement of this act. Section 34 clearly says it.
And what's your thoughts on that in regards to Australian citizenship before then?
Australian citizens were around before it. I have no much thoughts. I don't think about China. I don't think about Ukraine. I don't think about Vietnam. I don't think about North Korea, South Korea, and all the other countries in the world. I only think about my own. I really don't care where the Australian citizens come from.
I guess my question is this. I mean, they're stating there that there was such a thing as Australian citizen prior to that date, but there's no definition of what Australian citizenship actually is.
Well, see, they don't have the authority of the legal status of the Australian citizen, right? But they're not saying that they created the Australian citizen. They're not saying that. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to flick through and find the right one. I'm pretty sure this is the one. Yes, it is. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'll show you. Oh, all right. So now we're at the preamble. Right. The Parliament recognises, right? The Parliament recognises that the Australian citizenship represents represents full and formal membership. So it's not a nationality.
Full and formal membership of the community of the Commonwealth of Australia.
Yeah, it's not a nationality. And Australian citizen is a common bond, not a nationality, involving reciprocal rights and obligations.
It seems to me they've just made a decree and said everyone's going to now be an Australian citizen.
No, they didn't.
What's it saying here? It's got the community of the Commonwealth of Australia and Australian citizenship is a common bond involving reciprocal rights and obligations, uniting all Australians while respecting their diversity. So how can they make that statement? That's what I don't understand.
By pledging a loyalty, 44I kicks in, sharing, donating. It's the same stuff as the signing of the document I showed. So, yeah, I don't know. Australian citizens were around prior to 1948, and they are a common bond. They're a bond. Now, I'm going to show you something that I don't really talk on anymore. This is also done correctly, being enacted, 1948 Passport Act. I have spoken about this to passports. They refuse to send me anything anymore. Australian citizens shall mean, right? I keep claiming there's no definitions. Well, here's the definition. Australian citizen shall mean a person who is an Australian citizen with which in the meaning of the Nationality and Citizenship Act 1948. All right.
So I'm assuming we're going to see the definition now.
Yeah, you're going to see the definition. So this is definitions, yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me if you see Australian citizens there. Australian citizen. You see Australian citizen?
No.
Okay. I'll move on then. Next page. You might find it here. Do you find hang on. So I show you that I'm not hiding things. Can you find Australian citizen there? Protected person means, yeah, okay. But hey,
No.
where's the Australian citizen? Where's the Australian citizen? Oh no, see British nationality. Australian. No, I don't. No.
Nope.
Okay.
Nothing in there.
No, you don't find it there either.
No.
All right, all territories. So we'll go. Ooh, there we go. We'll go up, up, up. All territory of territory. So look, colonies include the Charles Island. Oh man. Okay, that's pretty cool. Do you see Australian citizens there?
No.
Come on, mate. It's got to be somewhere. You just read the definition. Is it there?
No. British nationality by virtue of citizenship. A person.
Not Australian citizen, right?
Yeah. What's this bit there, though, that I'm looking at just then? Just go down a little bit.
What?
There, 6. No, that's not it. Where was I reading? There. This 7. What's this about?
A person under this act is an Australian citizen or by enactment of the time being in force in a country. So an Australian citizen, right,
It's saying they're a
is
British
an
subject.
Australian citizen. A person who under this act is an Australian citizen or by enactment of the time being in force in a country to which Section 7 applies, a citizen of that country. So in Canada,
Yeah.
I think I did my research. I think Canada created Australian citizen, to tell you the truth.
Right. But it's basically saying there
I
that
do have that somewhere.
it's basically reinforcing there that we're British subjects, isn't it?
Yeah, well, look, namely United Kingdom and colonies, well, British subjects are under that. So now we'll go back up to Section 5. All right. So now we've identified under the Nationality and Citizenship Act, under the Passport Act, that created us our Australian passports, right? That 1948 one's done, have been replaced by the 2005 one now, but still, okay. Australian, an alien means a person who is not a British subject, an Irish citizen, or protected person. There's no definition of Australian citizen, therefore an Australian citizen by definitions have to be an alien. Because everything else, nationality, has a definition.
Yeah.
So an Australian citizen means a person who is an Australian citizen within the meaning of the Nationality and Citizenship Act. I'll go back there, and the only definition I can find is alien.
So Australian citizens have to be aliens.
Because if an Australian citizen was our nationality, would it not say an alien means a person who is not a British subject, Australian citizen, Irish citizen, or protected person?
Gotcha.
Or an Australian citizen, British subject, Irish citizen, protected person.
Which is what they're saying there. An Australian citizen is a person who's not a British subject, an Irish citizen, or a protected person.
That's correct.
So anyone that wants to be an Australian citizen is basically considered an alien.
That's right. So can you please produce your passport and your visa, and what's the reason you're staying in my land?
Jesus.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Right.
Mate, there's so many rabbit holes to go down, and we might have to make that for another day.
Yeah, look, like I said, it is a lot. Look, it's cut plainly there, right?
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Again, you come back to the Constitution, 1A, right? They've in 109, it breaches this legislation in the beginning in 2007. So, 1907. Sorry. So years before the 1922 ever got created, it was already under Section 78B and it already created a constitutional challenge. It should never have gone through. Never did went through.
Mm-hmm. So where's that?
And
So where's that
there you go.
leave?
Sorry.
Yeah. So I got young family. I fear for their future in many ways, actually. But where does it leave young people today with this ahead? How do they face this? How do they fight this corruption on such a scale as this? This is just mind blowing stuff. Where do they go? I mean, what do they do?
Read. Like this stuff here is regularly available through the ACA that I'm showing here. Yeah, read, ask
Okay.
questions, ask the hard questions.
Yeah.
If you don't understand it, don't just go, yeah, mate, go home and go, oh, I don't know. I have to ask GPT and ask what does that mean? Because he's going to give you a hogwash, nice, and
Well,
it
mate,
does it to me.
I can give you a direct involvement. Like, I think I started about age 20, and I could see then. What's that? That's like 47 years ago. And I could see the writing on the wall then. And I've spent my life basically fighting the system because I could see it was corrupt. But unfortunately for me, I was trying to fight the system within their system. And I was involved with creating new political parties, joining existing political parties to try and get the people to change the way they thought, and basically just continually bashed my head against the wall up until when really I've never really seen what was really happening until people like yourself have actually explained to me what's actually been going on. And, somehow or other, young families today, somehow or other, we've got to be able to give them a future, because at the moment they're just getting sucked dry. The average person is.
Well, again, it's all about reading. Like, people think I'm highly intelligent, whatnot. I don't think I am. I just read a little bit more and I ask the questions, the really hard questions that people don't like asking because it creates conflict. I got in so many arguments with people that are older than me that knew more than me. And when I got to certain information that I just showed you now, it conflicts with what they've done, what made their stuff worthless, and they've come at me over it, and that's okay. Like, it's all about asking the hard questions. I get asked hard questions. There was documentations I used to make, and people ask questions, and it's shown that I was wrong, and I just scrap the documentations. Thank you very much. I moved on. Give me what you got.
I'll ask you a tough question then. Do you see in the future yourself that these people behind this corruption, can you see a future where they actually held accountable? And if so, how do we get there?
Yes and no. Individually, I can't do nothing. Doesn't matter how much knowledge I have, I can bash the book across the table. Again, they've got the people power to say I'm crazy. They got the people power to say that I'm nonsense. And they can delete, come and grab everything, delete. I've already given it out to everybody, but with all the stuff I'm showing you now. But they can come and grab my computers, let's say, like in the theory that you're talking about. They can come and grab my gear and delete it off my computer, right? Or destroy
Yeah.
it, chuck it in a fire.
Yeah.
And then label me crazy. Like, I'm not crazy. A few other people know I'm not crazy. But that's a few against the many, right? So
Yeah.
individually you won't win. But if you have multiple people have the same information, they can't bury it, and you have all those people have some form of understanding, because it's plain and simple. I spoke to another bloke who doesn't do this stuff, and he goes, well, how do you know this stuff? I said, mate, go to the decision, and then once you get the decision and you read the decision, you go read what's been asked for, then you get what they're asking, right? And again,
Yeah.
it's all about reading. And even
Yeah.
David says, a bloke who made the petition, I've heard recordings of old recordings saying you got to go back to the back of the act, get the remedy, to get what they've changed, to get what they've done, right? Because knowledge is power.
Yes. Yeah.
We won't get anywhere if we all sit ununited. Like, you've got quite a few groups that are separate, that are pretty on the same path, right? You've got to remember that we're all human, men and women. We all have our own species habits
Yeah.
that you and I have spoken about multiple times in depth. And ultimately, we will fall again in the future because our habits require a kingship. All right, everyone likes to be more powerful than the next guy. It's lovely to think that we're all equal and all that, but deep down, everyone likes the power. No one likes to give up their power, position in their home, position in their jobs, in the groups, things like that, right? And we're very lucky. In our group, we don't have a head of power, and we refuse to have a head of power, and we keep that very tight knit, so no corruption can happen, no jealousy can be performed, and no allegiance can be made behind each other's backs, kind of thing. And that's how groups should be. And then I believe the groups should be talking to other groups, and other groups should be led by an example of the same ideology, as we already have a kingship. We already have all that. We don't need it ourselves. We've already got it. We just got to unite as the people, because again, when the Constitution got made, the Constitution was made by the people equally. There was no kingship. There was no head of power. No vote was bigger than the next. We all had an equal vote in it. Our ancestors did, I should say. Right? And that's the way you should run your system. Right? Run it the way your ancestors created it. And it worked back then. Right? It worked all the way up until 1942.
Yeah.
It worked. It worked all the way up to look. It did. It worked up to 1942 because I showed you the Australian Constitution States Act 1907, whatever it's called. I've shown it in 1907. They protected the states. Right? That was before 1922. Like I said, they've been protecting us. Right? They protected us. We don't need to have a kingship or a leader. We just need to unite with the same information, and people asking the questions to the government, not just to each other, but to the government, the tough questions. Right? Who are you? What are you doing? How did you do that? Did you follow the procedure? Is that the right procedure? No, it's not. You don't have authority under Section 1. Means you can't make law.
Well, basically,
you're giving me a discount. You're finding me guilty, and it's a criminal offence, a big fine. You're waiving the fine. That's all right, mate. There's 50 guys out there already applied for relation to court on speeding fines and etc. You're going to get the same documents. You may as well just pack your bag today and put not guilty on everybody.
Yeah.
Because you don't know exactly who knows, because now all groups are together. Like in Rockhampton region, there's like probably 500 or 600 people here. Could you just imagine 600 people going to court with evidence like this?
Well, let's put it on an even bigger scale than that. You imagine if every shire 500 people did that. You're going to have thousands and thousands,
exactly.
And if they try and throw thousands and thousands of us into jail, the jails aren't going to be big enough, are they? They're not going to be able to do it. And the courts couldn't even process it.
They can't, because, like, for an example, I don't know, and I think of this in death too. I do. If they chuck you in jail, they've got my mother, they got my father, they got probably my brothers. Depends on how well I looked after them in the later years. I've got all my family. I've got my cousins. I've got you. I've got my friends that are in the group. I've got friends that have family that support this type of stuff, and I've got my own friends outside of this group. They wouldn't just let me go to jail for no reason. Like, there's so many manpower that can go out and talk to the United Kingdom and to internationally and show the evidence internationally that Australia is corrupt. right?
Yes.
What then will hit SBS, and that would then hit other avenues, and then like it's a big mess if it gets that far, right?
Yeah.
Um, I got
So what
charged.
sorry, yeah, continue. Yes.
Yeah, go. No, yeah, ask the question.
No. I was just going to make a mention that I'll put a link to the Anti-Corruption Academy down in the description, and if anyone wants to head there and look into following up, having involvement with the academy itself, it's certainly, from my knowledge of it, you wouldn't regret it. I don't think it's they have once a fortnight, isn't it? They have
That's good. Yeah.
Zoom meetings, etc., and where people can discuss basically everything that's bothering them and learn about what is actually happening, corruptions within the system.
That is 100% correct. Again, we're slow moving. Like we don't we don't pump out quick cases like some groups do. We like to make sure that we have the correct and the ultimate, to our best of our knowledge, the ultimate ammunition to take to court.
Yeah.
Right. Like when we're setting up this meeting, I was going back and forth, deleting a lot of FOIs on my computer that I had up that was irrelevant here as it's to the archives. There was like 6 of them. I've got so many FOIs that's been asked have been put to the archives, and only a select few have gone to where I showed you today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really, right now under Section 51, what again is the Coinage Act, coining. So that's the Currency Act, bankruptcy, nationality, bills of exchange, and all that. The government can't touch it. Right. So again, ask the questions. How are you? If you got money in the bank, don't do it because you're wiping your own bank out. That's Australian dollars, right? But you can ask the government, all right? You can ask the government if you get a spur fine. Exactly. Do you have a few more minutes?
Okay.
I want to put up one more talking about money. I want to put one more up. Well, hang on. Yeah, yeah. So when I put this one up, I'm going to show you what money really is. I didn't make these acts. I was a child when this act was made. 1 second, it's popping up. Yep, and it's up perfect. Australian property means money standing to credit of an account kept in Australia. And again, so money standing to credit. Okay, so that's foreign property other than Australian. Australian property, if the property was Australian property, mainly before the gift transfer. This part here, sorry, go back. This part here, Australian property, if the property was an Australian property, mainly before the gift or transfer was made. So it's pretty much saying here, when I give you $50 for the fuel, I'm not actually giving you my property. It's still Australian's property. Change of location of property so that it becomes an Australian property. Acquire Australian property. So use of foreign property to acquire. So that's to do with the trade, like when you're trading Vietnam dong, Chinese wong, or whatever. Australian American dollar probably would be Australian property rather than foreign property. So Australian property means, one. So Australian property means money standing to the credit of an account kept in Australia. Money.
Can you
Money.
simplify that a bit? Standing to the credit of an account. What does that actually mean?
Well, money is credit. Well, that's it standing.
So Australian property is money standing to the credit of an account. Australian property is money. For example, cash. So cash is property. Is that what that means? You still there?
Are you there?
Yeah, mate. I got you back.
Yeah. Are you quickly skipped? All right. That's okay. Make that a little bit bigger. I think 16, if I remember correctly. 6 binds the crown. This binds the crown and right. This binds the crown and right of the Commonwealth of each of the states of the Commonwealth, of the Capital Territory of ACT. Just thought I'll chuck that in there. So reference to previous currency. So that's from the pound to the dollar. Okay, so payments made to the currency under this act. Every payment made shall, unless made according to the currency of some country other than Australia, made according to the currency of Australia provided for by this act. David keeps talking about the 14th of February. There it is there. Forms.
So what's this act?
Currency Act 1965 or 66.
Where they changed the dollar.
Standard weights and measurements. 14. Treasury may issue coins. Treasury may issue coins so made in the specific, So coins, okay, not notes. Didn't say about dollars, Australian dollars yet. Price of coins, okay, not dollars, not notes. Treasurer may issue coins under repealed acts for a limited time. That's from the pound to the pound to the dollar. Here you go, legal tender, right? So this is your cash that you're supposed to have. Legal tender, all right. Legal tender payments. A payment of money is legal tender. A tender of payment of money is a legal tender if it is made in coins that are made and issued under this act at current weight. So legal tender of payment of money is legal tender if it is made in coins. Where's the notes? Where's your $50 note? Where's your electronic currency that they withdraw out of your bank, or they make you pay Spur or New South Wales debt collectors or whatever it's called, right? Spur, debt collectors, state debt collectors, right? Right. Where's electronic $40 a fortnight, $100 a fortnight plan? Where's the coins?
So what's D down there in the case of coins of the denomination of $10? We don't have a $10 coin.
Okay, well, you've got to read the whole act to get there.
Okay.
So we will. 1, tender payment of money. Hang on. There we go. The tender payment of money is a legal tender if it's made in coins that are made and issued under this act are of current weight. In the case of coins of the denomination of 5 cents, 10 cents, 20 cents, or 50 cents, or coins of $2 or more, right? So they may have a $10 coin of those denominations, all right? Payment of an amount. So I will highlight that bit. I'm going to get back to there. Payment amount or not exceeding $5, but no greater than amount. Right. So 50 cents, those denominations for payment of an amount not exceeding $5. So that's normally you're going to go buy soft drink and a pie and stuff like that. That's why you get a $5 deal legally. But anyways, exceeding $5, but So more than $5, but not greater amount. So, you can't go buy $100 worth of lollies with $2 coins or 50-cent coins or things like that, right?
Right.
It's a bit of a discretion for the seller. B, in the case of coins of the denomination of 1 cent, 2-cent coins, or both, those denominations, okay, we don't have that. In case of the coins denominated greater than 50 cents. So C, in the case of the coins of the denomination greater than 50 cents, but less than $10, right? So in this part here, they're talking about $2 coins, all right, or a dollar coin.
Right.
But less than. So any coins of domino greater than 50 cents, so $1 and $2, but less than $10, so 5 $2 coins, for payment of an amount not exceeding 10 times the face value of a coin of domination concern, but for no greater amount. So you can only pay, like $90 or something like that with $2 coins, right? And then you go to D, in this case of coins of the denomination of $10 for the payment of an amount not exceeding $100 or no greater amount. So in this case, coins of the denomination of $10.
So what's all this mean?
$10 coin.
What's that?
A $10 coin. We don't have one,
No.
right? So it can't be any greater than 10 times.
Yeah.
It's $2 coin. We don't have a $10 coin. But not exceeding $100. They don't have that. Back in the old days, they probably did. Or they planned on having it. I don't know. In case of coins of another denomination of payment of any amount, for the denomination of one coin shall be deemed to not be current weight. Okay, so that's talking about weight. Coins called in not legal tender. Reference section 16 do not include reference to coins that have been called in pursuant of this act. So they're talking about pounds here, like for an example. But have you ever noticed that it's all about coins?
That's what I'm seeing. This was the act they established in 66, 65, was it?
That's right.
So why did they omit reference to notes?
There is no note.
Not in this act, there isn't.
No. So if it's not in this act, it's not legal tender.
Okay, we're talking part 4, legal tender. So it's not mentioned in legal tender. So our cash money isn't legal tender.
It's Australian property.
So these digital transfers wouldn't be legal tender either.
And that's where I'm saying it's a 109.
Yeah. Mate, we might have to leave that one for another time too.
I'll call that for another night. But that's where your money sits. Your money sits as your $5 note is Australian property. It's a credit. And anything to be paid in debt, so when you go to the Bankruptcy Act, you can't pay with property. You can only pay with legal tender. And you can't do it any greater than the current gold coin, what is $2.
And you can't do it any more than $100.
10 times. No, not $100.
I thought that.
Not $100, 10 times.
10 times.
No greater. Gold coins, no greater.
$200.
See right here. In a case of coins that are denomination of 5 cents, 10 cents, 20 cents, or 50 cents, or coins of $2 or more, 2 or more. So they're talking about $2.
Right.
Of those denominations for payment of amount not exceeding $5, but no greater amount. So if you're going to go that and go back to the 10 times part, 50 cents or less, and then you go down to thing of $10 for the payment amount not exceeding $100. Well, that's for $10. So you can't pay anything greater than $5 payment. So 10 cents denomination for payment or payment amount. So with the correct wording, a payment, if you go to pay in full your $1,000 fine and you pay in full with $5 of 2 for $1 coin.
Yeah.
Now, I say that of 2 is like if you got 2 50-cent coins and stuff like that, or, 2 or more coins, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't pay $5 with 50 cents. That's a very illogical conclusion to make $5 out of 50 cents, yeah? Okay? So, but one of my friends says that is a $2 coin that they're talking about. They say that's a $2 coin. I don't know.
With this information, though, it still leaves the average punter, doesn't it? Like, if he gets a spur bill for $1,000 and he uses this defence, they're not going to take any notice of him, are they?
Well, that's where you go and read the Bankruptcy Act, and you go, because a debt is bankruptcy. Okay, That's one thing that I found out through looking at the acts. Debt is bankruptcy. You got to go look at the RBA Act, and you got to look at this act.
Yeah.
If you really want to talk money, those three are, and you want to play in their system, those three are very familiarising. And the Queensland Electoral Act 1992, Australian property. So again, property can either be an asset, a liability, or collateral, and they claim the property is credit, and credit is an asset.
Yeah.
So you can't use an asset to pay debt.
Yeah.
No, only collateral can be paying debt. Because again, you run up that Ferrari's ass, your house is up for collateral. You either pay by your house or you pay by cash. But if they're saying Australian dollars, notes, money is credit, then there is no way you can use it for debt.
They're saying that's property, aren't they?
That's correct. And it's for credit. So it has the classification as an asset.
They shouldn't be able to grab your house either because that's property.
Well, that's a different story. But no, they can't either. That's a different act, a different story.
Yeah. Okay, mate.
They're going to grab it with what?
I don't know.
With $5.
They come and grab that's another bloody rabbit hole again, isn't it? We don't even have deeds to our bloody houses anymore. They've destroyed all them, and God knows what they've done.
It's not that they destroyed it. It's not that they destroyed it. It's that they got no authority to give it.
But the banks themselves were holding the deeds, and apparently the banks have destroyed them.
Oh, absolutely, the banks have destroyed it. They have destroyed it, but I'm speaking of the new. If you go and buy a house tomorrow,
yes.
The reason you don't have a deed is because the what's its name? The Commonwealth government and the state government has no authority to make a deed. And when you do something criminally wrong, well, what do you do with the evidence?
Destroy it.
You just answered your own question.
And that's what these criminals have done.
That's it, 100%.
Yeah, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time to share all your insights tonight. The work you've done, the researching and covering all this evidence, to me is nothing short of alarming, and I'm sure to most people listening. I guess the alarming part is how our Constitution has been compromised. To me, it's real, it's serious, and it affects every one of us, and most people have really yet to realise just exactly how this is happening. So
I don't think it's compromised. I think it's been preserved.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
as the Queen has already said to one of the, again, back to David, what I've heard, I was never there, so I can't say it's true. She said, "You got a constitution, use it," and we are the ancestors of we the people.
Okay, that's a good pickup. It's there. We've just got to be able to get back to it.
You just got to know how to get back to it, right? Again,
Yeah.
procedures and everything else. You have to understand how to become a governor. You got to understand all that stuff. And I ain't saying to do it by anointing yourself or having a group put you there. I'm saying you got to be done by the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And yes, you're going to ask, well, how do we do that? And if I knew how to do that, I would already been sending letters to the United Kingdom. So, but it's been preserved. It has been preserved. The laws have been preserved in its most heightened beneficiary position with the laws of the Commonwealth and the states.
I think they're doing their best to destroy that preservation, though, aren't they?
Oh, mate, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Until there's people like you and I and many others, they were having a very good, luscious $6 million
Yeah.
a year
Great
enjoyment
time.
out of our stupidity.
Yeah. Yeah.
They definitely loved it for the last 50 years of us not knowing, eh?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I've got bloody scars all over my head from bashing it against the wall. But
Mm.
I've been trying. I haven't given up yet. I guess I won't give up until they put me under. But um, to all our listeners, I want to thank you again for joining us. If you can share it, if you like it, and put it out there. It's all I can do is highlight that we all need to dig deeper, and as Jayden said, ask the hard questions. And I think we need to hold people to account. It can be scary. I know that personally. When you stand up to the injustices, can I use that word, Jayden? Injustice,
Yeah.
and the level that you of insight that you bring to us, Jayden, I think is rare because without you, we aren't seeing too many people doing the role that you're doing. And I hope it encourages everyone listening not to just to think critically, but to really examine what is happening to this country. I'll call it a country. We're a colony, but we all know it as a country. It's our country. So again, mate, thank you for joining me on this very first episode. Your research and perspective has set a really high bar, and it's been a truly a privilege to have you share your expertise with us tonight.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure.
Okay. Thanks again, Jayden. This isn't theory or speculation to everyone listening. This is real. This is actually happening, and everything that Jayden's told us here tonight, it's happened to all of us, and we really need to start asking the questions that really matter. Yeah. Thanks again, mate, and I'll catch
No
up with
worries,
you.
man.
Okay. Good night.
All right. Thanks for the chat, man. Have a good one.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.